So I'm outside, just stood next to my favourite tree, and it's looking quite bare because obviously it's winter, but it's just so beautiful, majestic and strong, and this is where I often come and sit to connect, ground, meditate. And today I just want to speak about grief, something that we all experience in our lives. And it's not to fix it, not to rush it, and not to make it spiritual too quickly, but just to really honour it. Because grief is one of the most misunderstood experiences that we go through. And we're often taught, either subtly or directly, to move on, to stay strong, to cope better, or to return to normal. But grief doesn't work like that. Grief is not a problem to solve. It's a process to be lived. And if you're moving through grief right now, especially the deep grief, the grief that feels so raw and sharp that it feels like you'll never move through it, I just want you to know this first. Nothing is wrong with you, and nothing is wrong with what you're experiencing. There's no one way to experience grief. It can come in waves. It can just be very different for different people. And it's not a weakness. It's not a failure. And it's not something that you're doing badly. There is no way to do it well. The depth of grief is simply the measure of your love, whether that be for a person or a pet or whatever it's for. And you don't grieve deeply because you're broken. You just grieve deeply because you loved so deeply. And grief is something that I've experienced quite deeply recently. I lost my brother last year, and I came to understand something in my body, not just in my mind. And grief isn't just sadness. It's the shock, the longing, and the disorientation of who am I without this person physically in my life. And it's the nervous system trying to make sense of a world that no longer looks the way that it did before. And the not knowing how to step forward. Who am I without this person here? I do know, however, that resisting grief and trying to bypass it or suppress it or rush it often makes it louder. It just has to be felt, not fought. But there's something else that often isn't spoke about enough. And this is the more spiritual side of things. When someone leaves their physical body, they're not gone in the way that we're conditioned to believe. And we do know this on a deep cellular level. They're no longer here in human form or animal form, but they don't disappear. You don't find them at the grave. You don't find them in stone. You don't find them in the ashes that they leave behind. You find them in moments listening to the stream rushing by, in the wind moving through the trees, in the robin that consistently seems to appear every time you step outside, in the bird song that stops you in your tracks, in the sunlight warming your face when you least expect it, in the laughter of a child. You find them inside you, because love doesn't end when a body does. And if you've listened to or watched my recent video where I shared an Alan Watts teaching about how nothing truly begins or ends, this also connects here too. Alan Watts is somebody who I truly admire. He's no longer here in human form, but his voice, his wisdom, his way of seeing the world lives on. It's very much alive through words, through recordings, and through all the people he's touched and allowed to remember who they are. And in the same way, those we love don't stop existing. They continue as influence, as presence, as love. They had a human experience just as we're having one right now. And the soul doesn't disappear when a body completes its journey. And as we know in science, an energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes form. So there may come a time, gently, naturally, when grief begins to change. Not because you've forgotten, and not because the love has faded, but because the relationship has transformed. And there's a quiet moment where grief loosens its grip, and life calls you to be lived again. And it's important to know that this isn't betrayal. This isn't moving on, putting it in a box and leaving it there. It is carrying love forward, allowing them to live through you in the life that you lead. Living fully then becomes a way of honouring them, not leaving them behind. So if you're someone who's grieving right now, I just want to leave you with this. Just allow the grief to move through you at its own pace. Honour it and acknowledge it. Let it teach you about the depth of your capacity to love. And know that connection doesn't end, it changes form. And know that you are not alone in this. And love, real love, never truly leaves.